Finally.
Fans of 90 Day Fiancé, before the 90 days, tuned in to follow the budding romance between Jeffrey Paschal and his Russian girlfriend, Faria Molina.
I don't want to die.
They were a popular couple until fans learned that Paschal was facing domestic assault charges. He is accused of attacking girlfriend Kristen Wilson in June of 2019.
The fans off the show got together and said, we don't think that Jeffrey should be allowed to tell all because he has a history of domestic violence. And that swayed the producers and was not invited to the tell-all. And we never got to hear if he chose, if he was still with Faria.
Dropped from the season finale, the reality TV star went online and denied the allegations.
I know what happened. You know, I was there.
Paschal told Dominic Nadi, a radio and YouTube host, he was going to fight the charges.
This is all just a ploy. This is all just an agenda to try to make me lose custody of my child.
Paschal is charged with aggravated kidnapping, domestic assault, interfering with an emergency call, and vandalism. According to the arrest affidavit, Wilson said Paschal was in an intoxicated state and assaulted her at her home. Wilson told police he grabbed her by the neck and slammed her head against a wall several times and then thrown to the ground. According to the police report, Wilson was displaying typical symptoms of a concussion, and she was taken to the hospital for further treatment. Police found Paschal at his home. He claimed Wilson's injuries were self-inflicted. Officers arrested Paschal and said that after he was placed in their patrol car, he tried to kick the windows out and needed to be restrained. Paschal says he rejected a plea deal and wants to go to trial to prove his innocence.
And they offered me no punishment whatsoever just to have it on my record. I said no, absolutely not.
All right, I want to fight the charges. That's what he's saying. You know, and that means there's going to be a trial, folks. That means that's the only way you can fight the charges. You got to go to trial. And he may want to get up on the witness stand and testify and tell his story. May have to in a case like this. Let's bring in our guest joining us from Memphis, Tennessee, to discuss his criminal defense attorney and civil attorney, Jeff Lee. Jeff, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Is it scary when a client walks in and says, counselor, I want to fight these charges?
It's very scary because he may not want to take the stand, but if he does take the stand, some of his previous record could come in. It sounds like it's a pretty old record, but it's not just an unfiltered narrative. I mean, there's going to be rules of evidence about things that can come in and cannot come in. He doesn't just come in and do a tell-all. Yeah,
you know, this is a domestic assault, or the charges, right? So this is a domestic situation. Those of us who've practiced law, you know, the criminal courthouse or courtroom is not the most dangerous place. It's family court. It's domestic, where the passions and the emotions overtake everything, and it becomes very volatile sometimes very dangerous. To me, this is, yes, it's in criminal court, but it's really a domestic situation, and it's going to be, will it come down to a he said, she said?
That's what it's going to come down to. I mean, they'll have medical experts, but the medical evidence isn't going to be dispositive. It's really going to come down to what she says versus what he says.
And how, I mean, we've seen him talk a little bit, goes on a podcast to talk about the case. It's a guy who, you know, is a reality TV star. I understand. He's someone who likes to be in front of the camera, behind a microphone, likes the audience, likes the attention. I'm not faulting him for that because I understand exactly where he's coming from. But I'm not facing criminal charges. He is. So how do you think all of that transpires or plays out in the court? Is it an advantage to him? Is it a disadvantage?
I think it's going to be an advantage, but the biggest challenge for him is going to be controlling his emotions, trying to manage the courtroom by overreacting when witnesses say things he doesn't like. He can't be over there making expressions and looking around. And, you know, he's unpredictable, which makes great TV, but it's a scary defendant to have sitting next to you.
All right, let's talk about the jurors who would sit. Like, so what sort of profile would you look for in a juror that might be more sympathetic or more likely to believe him or believe that his story is reasonable?
Vinny, what we've seen is, you know, domestic assault charges. It's not necessarily better to have a man or to have a woman. One gender doesn't necessarily help like you'd think. A lot of times women can be tougher on women, but the jurors that he needs are people who can believe that this woman would harm herself just to get back at him. He has to find.
And I think, oh, do we have you back? Your signal froze there for a second. Can you repeat what you just said? Because I didn't hear you.
I said he has to find at least one juror who thinks it's plausible that this victim could have harmed herself just to get back at him.
Now, she's going to be obviously an incredibly important witness in the case, and she's going to be cross-examined. And she's, in court as an alleged victim of domestic assault. So how careful does his attorney have to be when cross-examining her and undermining her story? Because that's what his attorney's going to have to do, right?
He really has to ride that fine line. If he's not aggressive enough, the jury will think that he's not fighting for his client. But if he's too aggressive, especially a male attorney versus a female witness, it's going to turn off the jury and ultimately hurt Mr. Paschal.
And how do you prepare a guy like this to testify in court?
The good news is he won't have to decide whether he's going to testify or not until he's seen all the other evidence. But knowing everything we know about him, you just need to plan to put him on the stand, try and rein him in, allow him to be himself and be natural, but keep him from going completely off script.
Yeah, I think that is really the wild card in this case, is going to be his personality / emotions. Jeff Lee, great to have you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Vinny.
All right, we're continuing to track this one. Look, we've got a motion hearing coming up July 21st. So on that date, we may very well get a trial date. And this one is starting to get kind of ripe, so I'd expect it to happen sooner rather than later. All right, when we come back, big day down in Brunswick, Georgia, in the Ahmaud Arbery killing case. And Lee Merritt, the family attorney for the Arbery's, spoke today. We'll take a listen to what he had to say, his reaction to what was happening inside the courtroom.